welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. And I'm super excited to be here because, obviously we're having a very important and interesting conversation with regard to, the COVID booster jobs, vaccine inequality, what exactly that means and whatnot. All right. So make sure you stay tuned because obviously I would love to hear what you have to say. And I would love to hear, your thoughts on this as well. So make sure you stay tuned. All right. Now, before we actually head back into the conversation, I want to very quickly talk about, how exactly this whole process works, right? Because before we head into the conversation, it's always good to have an understanding of what exactly we are talking about. All right. Now, before we actually head into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, be a part of the show. All you need to do is just text me on 078 Share your thoughts, share your opinions with me because obviously I would love to hear what you have to say. All right. So don't forget to do that. Don't forget to share your thoughts and opinions with me because that way, I get to know what you're saying and you get to know what I'm saying as well. All right. And it's pretty much the best of both worlds. All right. So don't forget to do that. Now, however, we're gonna get into the topic. But before that, I want to very quickly remind you that you can, in fact, go follow us on our socials. You can go like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube either, because that way you can actually make sure that you're always informed and you're always tuned about the very latest with regard to the pandemic and everything else that happens with regard to the pandemic. All right. So don't forget to do that. Now, however, I want to very quickly talk about vaccine inequality, why exactly that happens and why it's such a big problem. Right now, vaccine inequality is inequality in terms of vaccines. All right, simply put, that is what it means. Right, and the reason it's such a big conversation, or something that's very important actually, is because the United Kingdom currently, we're planning on giving booster jabs to our population, right? However, what we're actually doing through that is that we're sending low and middle income countries who are struggling to access vaccines to the back of the queue, right? All the way back, we're sending them all the way back to the queue because because we're ordering millions of overpriced booster jabs from Pfizer, right? Now, vaccine equity campaigners from Global Justice Now have actually said, or rather, they have criticized the pharmaceutical giant for profiteering during the pandemic, right? And that's just the truth, right? If you actually look at the statistics, if you look at the prices that Pfizer has sold their vaccines to, you can basically see that through time it actually increases. So they are in fact profiteering from the pandemic essentially, right? Because they have reportedly increased COVID-19 vaccine prices for the NHS by a fifth, from £18 to £22 a dose. So right now when they're buying it, when they're purchasing it, it'll be £22 a dose, right? And the UK will actually pay about 1 million, or rather actually they will pay about 1 billion pounds for 35 million doses of Pfizer's vaccine for booster jabs for the next year, right? And this is because they have been increasing prices, so they want to make sure that to vaccinate their whole population. And they have actually, so this group, or Pfizer rather, they have been criticized as shamefully unsurprising, because this is definitely something they would do, right? And with the price of COVID jabs already comparatively high with other vaccines, especially because the Pfizer vaccine is a bit more expensive than all the other vaccines out there, right? So essentially they've been criticized of profiting during the pandemic, profiting from people suffering as well. Now, for example, I want to very quickly talk about the vaccination drive as well, because if you looked at countries like Israel, or if you looked at countries like the United Kingdom and the United States, you've actually seen how deaths have declined as vaccination coverage extended to, most of the vulnerable in their societies, right? Essentially, when people get vaccinated, there is a much lower risk of them dying, much lower risk of, the infection getting much worse, because obviously what a vaccine does is that it increases your immunity. So for these people it's actually much safer, and obviously it gives them much more protection, in terms of handling the virus. All right, now make sure you stay tuned because we're going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to keep talking more about this. But until then, make sure you stay tuned.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it. Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Girls, ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can oh, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts mainly one because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Girls, ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on the Sunrise, and I'm here to keep you company all the way until 9 a.m. So make sure you stay tuned because obviously I'm here to share important and interesting conversation with regard to what is happening all over the world, right? Not just here in the United Kingdom, but in fact all over the world as well. So don't forget to stay tuned. Don't forget to, share your thoughts and opinions with us because that will be absolutely amazing. And don't forget to text us or call us even on 078 let me know your thoughts and your opinions. I would absolutely love to hear what you have to say. And obviously, something else that you need to keep in mind is that if you really like some of the content that we talk about, because we talk about literally anything, everything from science to sports to health, technology, whatever it is that you want to hear, we talk about it all. So if you're really interested in all of that, the best way for you to stay updated about the latest news is by following us on our socials. All right. Now, if you go like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, you can actually make sure that you're always informed about the very latest in terms of what is going on in the world. So don't forget to actually do that. Now, before we actually head into our conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can download our app because that's available for free on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. All right. So, go download our app, share your thoughts, share your opinions. And, the best thing about downloading our app is that you can listen in from anywhere in the world at any time of the day. From, regardless of whatever you're doing, you can actually listen to us. All right. So don't forget to do that. Now, let's actually, head back into our conversation. Now, we were talking about, vaccine inequality, why that's such a big problem, and why we need to actually really discuss this and talk about, why exactly vaccine inequality exists. Right now, the United Kingdom has actually received somewhat of a criticism with regard to, the COVID booster jabs. And the reason they've received criticism is essentially because there are so many other people in the world who haven't been able to get vaccinated. So essentially, for us to give booster jabs to our own population, it means that our population is already on the way to getting fully vaccinated, right? Because these booster jabs are booster jabs, and you get a booster jab after you've become fully vaccinated. So in instances like that, it's important for us to understand that the biggest problem right now is making sure that everyone in the world is vaccinated. Because sure, maybe the United Kingdom, maybe the United States can get rid of the pandemic, maybe that will happen. However, we're not really going to get completely rid of the pandemic because the pandemic is still going to be existent in these countries, right? And the truth is, it's going to cause other outbreaks as well, because we saw how fast the pandemic spread when it started from China, and then all of a sudden it was all over the world, right? So we understand and we have seen how fast it spreads, right? So all it takes is just one tourist, or all it takes is just, it just takes 1 second to actually pass that virus, and that way the whole world will be going through another outbreak if we don't make sure that the entire world is vaccinated. Right now, one thing you need to keep in mind is previously there was this link that was actually established with regard to how high rates of vaccination actually resulted in lower rates of death. right? Now, poorer countries have actually made, or even third world countries have made very little progress in terms of vaccination in their country, which means that it will be very, very harder for them to get, or rather even for us to get rid of the pandemic, right? Because the truth is the pandemic will actually linger for longer than it'll actually linger for much longer than necessary, right? Because if people from poor countries who are unable to get the vaccines, for them, what that actually means is that, they'll basically see the virus continue causing death and even hardship for the months to come, right? So remember how, we had some of the worst cases at the beginning, right? How it was so bad here in the United Kingdom. So if you look at this in the perspective of these poorer countries, they will be living in this scenario for months on end until everyone is fully vaccinated. And that's why I keep telling you, you know what, it's really selfish. We should really make sure that we vaccinate everyone, vaccinate the whole world, because if not, what's going to happen is that, it's going to get much, much harder, not just for you or I, but in fact for this entire world to survive. All right. And that's why it's important to make sure that everyone in the world is vaccinated. All right. So, something else that you need to keep in mind is that Sir Andrew Pollard, who happens to be the chief of the Oxford AstraZeneca group, actually criticized the UK's latest move to give booster shots, right? And the reason he said that is because, there are so many people dying around the world. They're suffering because they're unable to get vaccinated. And it's quite ridiculous that we rich countries are actually, taking away that opportunity, and we're not letting these poor countries vaccinate their citizens, their population, right? And something else that he stated was that herd immunity is in fact a myth, right? Just because you give multiple booster shots to people and make sure that they don't get the virus, the truth of the matter is the virus, or rather the vaccine, isn't 100% effective. It's not going to completely make you immune to the virus. So what it's going to do is it's going to reduce the chance of it getting serious. It's going to slow down the spread of the infection, right? And that's why it's so important to keep that in mind as well. And ultimately what we're doing is we're putting our citizens at risk as well, because they will be traveling and they can't actually and we think that they have a lot of immunity and whatnot, but the thing is they can actually contract COVID again. So it's important to keep that in mind. However, now we're going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to keep talking more about this. So until then, make sure that you stay tuned.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week and I get